Lovely and decent people, and Bob Dean is one of the finest men I've ever met. I want to be able to introduce Bob as not only my dear friend, but one who has not only impressed me, but inspired me. As I said to you before, now I'm saying it for his benefit, for him to hear, because he has come back into the speaking circuit and began to talk with us again. I think it would be a loss if he didn't. I have been inspired to come back into the speaking circuit and begin talking again. So, without further ado, the man I'm introducing, I love and admire, and a fascinating man, and I would suggest you listen closely because he's got a lot to talk about that he knows firsthand. Robert Rodriguez.
The check is in the mail.
As long as it doesn't bounce.
It won't bounce. Thank you. Am I being picked up here? Is this carrying? I can move around a little bit. I was in the back of the room back there, and I didn't realize that this scoundrel here, Bill Ryan, was going to come up with an overhead projector. So I had to rush up to my room and grab my transparencies. So I've got a few pictures to show to you that I think you might find interesting. I want to say it's an honor to be introduced by someone like Jordan. He's one of the foremost scholars of our time. And I honor and respect him. And as he said, we're old friends. We go back a long way. I also want to say a word or two about the young man who was up here on this podium before I showed up here. Rich Dolan is very special. He's probably one of the foremost historians of our time. And I strongly urge you, encourage you, to not only buy and read his first volume, but get the second, because I'm waiting expectantly for volume 3. That young man has pulled the cover back from this cover-up in the scandal that we've been living through for the last 60, 70 years. And I take my hat off to him. I've known him for some time. And I'm so encouraged by young men like him that are picking up and going with this program. Because as I'm sure all of you know, I'm a member of the old guard, and we're diminishing daily, literally. Not a week or a month goes by that I don't hear that some of my old cronies are gone. They're not gone, they've just crossed back. They're home now. But I miss them. And I'm gratified to see some of the young men coming along that are filling the space for us. I'm also gratified to look out and see you guys, because you're the reason I'm here. I don't speak publicly much anymore. I find it inconvenient. I hate like hell to travel in airplanes. I got back from Spain here at the end of July, and I had to go to bed for a damn week. And then I went through Kennedy Airport, and I was outraged when I looked around at Kennedy. It's a national disgrace. I mean, it's dirty, the broken furniture, the service is rotten, the restrooms are filthy, and most of them are closed. It's terrible to walk through Kennedy, having gone through the airport at Barcelona and seen new and modern, and oh my God, those Spaniards are really something else. They put on a show there in Barcelona the last week in July that was outstanding. 1,500 people showed up, and they had standing room. It was a hell of a good conference, and I was honored to be invited. I and Stephen Greer, Stephen Bassett, who I will touch upon briefly in a few minutes, And I was gratified by the Spaniards. They're great hosts, and they're very enlightened and very interested in this subject. As many of you, I'm sure, know, this subject has been my favorite subject now for over the last 20 years. I've been on this journey for 45 years, but I've been speaking publicly the last 20. And I speak bluntly, openly, and I violate my national security oath every time I open my mouth. And I plan to violate my national security oath tonight. But again, a special thanks for you guys, because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. I'm so encouraged by the people I meet at these conferences, because not only are you open-minded, but you're enlightened and you're enthused, because I think you've learned, as I have, that this subject is, in my opinion, the greatest story in human history. Because it is the story of human history. We're not alone, guys, and we have never been alone. We are members of an infinite universe filled with infinite intelligent life. And we have had an intimate interrelationship with several advanced extraterrestrial intelligences now for, at least 10,000 years. And the evidence is pretty overwhelming that at least one, perhaps two of those different groups had a hand in engineering the human genome over 100,000 years ago. And that evidence is literally overwhelming. Now, we're going to touch upon a whole bunch of stuff, and I want you to understand, I have come to the point in my life where I have become to be almost sympathetic to the government for keeping the lid on this thing. They don't know how to lift the lid on this subject. They don't know how to lift the lid on Pandora's box, because when they lift the lid just a little tiny bit, boom, the whole damn thing is going to come out, and nobody in government is prepared for that. Because the story is so damn big. I know that many of you, probably most of you, are aware of the famous Brookings report. NASA gave a contract to the Brookings Institute in the late 50s. And the basic point was simply this: try to find out what should we do if we, in the future, should encounter advanced extraterrestrial intelligence. And they worked on this thing. Thank you, my boy, thank you. They worked on this thing for 3 years, published it in '61, delivered it to Congress in '61, and they concluded as a result of this study that if we should indeed at some point run into advanced extraterrestrial intelligence, it would probably be a good idea to keep your mouth shut and not tell the masses of people. Now, Margaret Mead was on the committee, and she'd had experiences in the South Pacific with primitive societies where they had been confronted by our advanced culture, and those primitive societies shriveled and died. And the conclusion of the Brookings study was that if we indeed would encounter advanced